Welcome back. We are continuing with our talks with Pastor Ron. We are on our third session for the day. And as you can see, some of the props that are on the table, Pastor Ron, you took us a little bit into the stories behind them. I also wanted to talk about the magazine because you wear many hats. I wanted to talk about this magazine and the article that you wrote in here. Would you like to share a bit about this article as well as
Sure.
tell us about the journey, because you've worn many hats. As far as I know, you started very young in ministry. Could you take us from there and just walk us through that timeline a bit?
Right. Yeah, I went to college, Bible college in Peterborough at the age of 18, graduated at 21, and went right from graduation to Cambridge at Calvary Church as a youth pastor there. At the age of 20, I married the love of my life, and we will have been married 50 years this August.
Oh, wow.
And so I guess that gives away my age a little bit, okay, if people want to do the math. And we, we've had an exciting time. We've had an amazing journey. I talked to you earlier about my brother being killed in a motorcycle or a car accident. But it was a year and a half after that, I was in a university class in Chatham when I got a phone call that I needed to leave because Darla's brother, younger brother, who was 20, I believe at the time, or 21, he was a university student, and he was killed in a motorcycle accident.
Oh, no.
So, even that in and of itself impacted both of us, obviously. And when you're a pastor back then, they look to you to be the person, to sort of guide the family, and that's fine, and I did, and then I think a few short years after that, another close cousin of ours was killed in a vehicle accident as well. So. As a young person, you sort of, in ministry, I started in Cambridge. My brother, when I was at Thedford, small church up near Grand Bend, that was my first church, and it was about the size of the youth group that I'd left in Cambridge, and the community was about the size of the church that we were, youth pastors to, and it was a fun time. A lot of young adults. We had a great community, and then went from there after 4 years to Blenheim. And our daughters, grew up primarily in Blenheim and down near Chatham, and we were there for 13 and a half years before going to Stone Church, and went through a building program in Blenheim. And it was in 1989 when we started the building we're all excited about, and all of a sudden the crash in the economy hit, and everything went south. Buildings that were previously sold didn't get closed, and it was just what should have been a 6-month building program ended up being about 2 years. And you're walking that tightrope with things, and it was just difficult to manage all of that. But I still had fond memories of every place that we have pastored. And I wrote fairly recently an article. And so we talked about my safe places, my grandparents' farm, my uncle, my brother, and my family, because I'm really proud, and I love my daughters, Rhonda and Melissa. They're the pride of our life, and so thankful. They teach me a lot. I've learned a lot how to move away from a religious, we've got the answers, to sometimes we don't have the answers. We aren't even sure what the questions are. And so we're just sort of navigating through life at times and trying to figure it out. And I was sharing with some friends recently, and I said, I wish things were black and white, just straight out, right and wrong. But because we live in a fallen, broken world, there are different shades of right and different shades of wrong. And often you have a choice between shades of wrong because they're not good choices that you have to make at times. And neither one of them are what you would have liked. And so you have to navigate your way through that. And being centered in the person of Christ, I think, really helps us do that. It's not necessarily your theology that does that. If you have a theology without the person of Christ and that relationship with Him, then it really gets, I think, difficult. You can become mean-spirited in your religious view and perspective on life at times. We also talked about my motorcycle. I had a motorcycle accident on the Gardner one time. I was coming home, dropped off Rhonda at downtown. We'd gone to a movie, and Darla and I and Rhonda, and it was later at night after the theater, so I drove her downtown on the motorcycle, and then riding back to Etobicoke on the Gardner, all of a sudden, a wheel comes flying over, hits a car in front of me, bounces off the hood and hits my bike. And that's a different story that we can share and how that played out. But following that, I actually needed a life coach. And I wrote an article in Sage magazine about it, Morning Balderdash. And let me just read a little bit about it. A few years ago, I was fortunate enough to have been gifted a life coach. It was a very difficult time in my life, grieving numerous losses. It was shortly after I'd lost about 12 close family and friends who were close to us in a period of 2 to 3 years. Being involved in the motorcycle accident didn't really help. I experienced nightmares, anxiety, and fear in ways that I'd never known before. A loud noise while driving around along the highway I would start to feel my throat choke, and I would feel like I couldn't breathe, and I had a recurring nightmare that I was jammed under a car in front of me, because on the motorcycle I was sliding down the Gardner, and I could see the car in front of me, and I'm sliding toward it, and I can hear the cars coming behind me, and I can feel the anxiety and I just sort of thought to myself, okay, this is it. This is how it happens for me. I figured I would be crushed, and that was it. But the nightmares, I became wedged under the car in front of me and the car behind me. It didn't happen in real life, but in the nightmare, that's what kept recurring. And I would wake up drenched in sweat. So I really needed help beyond the bandage and the gauze. So the life coach added some perspective on life that really helped me. Early Morning Balderdash is what I titled the article. Most of us are aware that our mind is constantly fluttering between one or more thoughts, both positive and negative. If you've been involved in a traumatic experience, your thoughts can be destructive to your well-being at times and hindering your healing. So I suggest, and it was suggested to me, take a notepad or a foolscap. Now, do you know what a foolscap is?
No, I was just wondering that.
Yeah. Those of us over 50 remember foolscap. It was, for those who might not, it's a piece of paper. Okay, a Jester watermark originally made it popular, and this is a few centuries back, and the name's stuck. However, it's just a piece of paper on which you can write.
We will be back for our next segment shortly.